I'd like to thank Undrila Bose for her performance of Rabindra Nritya.